One of my young fighters, Victor Hugo, fought a couple weeks ago at a big Grand Prix in Vegas, and it was him against a guy named Nicholas Marigali, who was these two guys, the top guys in the world in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Victor went into it. Marigali gets a little sweep about 6 minutes in. Victor kind of makes a tactical error, could have just stood up, no points. He doesn't. Marigali gets 2, ends up winning. And then so after Victor was down and was pretty upset about it, I mean, as he should be. I mean, he's lost out on a big paycheck. And, he was like, I'm sorry in this. I'm like, what are you sorry for? Like, you're making it sound like we're outcome driven. This is process. Did you think it was going to be easy? Did you think that because you worked hard that they would just show up and hand you the check and this guy would roll over? He gets paid too, and this guy fucking trains his ass off.
Yeah.
This is part of the process. We're going to have bumps, but the mission never changes. We're going to go right back to the gym.
Right.
We're going to continue to train, and we're going to fix this shit. And you know what? We are going to win on sheer will and just the fact that we won't give up or miss, and we will fucking be victorious, and we will smash these people just out of the fact that we put our shoulder to the wind and we don't stop.
We went through the process.
Yeah, and this one match doesn't decide anything.
No.
Like there's no one moment as you guys are going. There's no one set. There's no one workout. There's no one year. There's no one fucking decision that is the finite outcome of your life. It's the evolution,
accumulation of all of these things.
And that's what training is. That's why lifting weights is the greatest metaphor for fucking life.
Right. That's exactly what training is about. And training is about, as we've said thousands of times, training is about the accumulation of adaptations.
Well, and think about when you start,
what you're
it's
talking
light.
about is exactly the same thing.
So when you start, it's light, but it's kind of heavy. And then as you get stronger, the weights get heavier, and it becomes harder and harder. But you've effectively done the work to be able to lift them. It's the greatest analogy for everything.
When you start your novice progression, 115 for 3 sets of 5 squats feels heavy. And when you get to 315 for 3 sets of 5 squats, it feels heavy too.
Yeah.
It's just more weight on the bar because you have adapted and accumulated the force production capacity to do that. And then, things get more complicated. The further along the curve you go, just like everything in the universe, there is a diminishing returns aspect of everything. But one of the things that we learn from training is that the things we thought about training have to adapt as well when we are faced with inadequacies in the process that we had tried to apply. The process adapts too.
Yeah, it has to.
The process has to adapt as well as the guy doing the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, no, this realization on process versus outcome was a huge piece, and it was interesting as I was trying to talk to Victor and give him some sage advice, a little mentorship. I had this mirror turned back on myself and ended up adding it as a slide in my talk that I gave a few days later, as an analogy and really just a roadmap for the training. Like everybody gets so romanced upon this one piece and this one outcome, and when you look and you really buy into the process, all you do is failures are just speed bumps. And as long as you learn something from them and you can continue on. But I realized that just a unwilling sheer desire to keep moving and not stop.
Right.
Because what's the outcome? What's the final outcome? Death. That's it.
Oh.
And the game is placed.
In the final analysis, that's all there is to it.
What's the outcome? I'm going to retire at 60, move to Arizona, and eat $1.99 eggs at the fucking egg store, right? And try to go lay by the pool and do nothing.
Right.
That's not an outcome.
That's
I would rather fucking start a
that's
45.
No outcome.
No, that's a terrible outcome. But there's people that their idea is, I'm going to retire and I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in Winnebago and drive around America. That's great for 2 weeks. Then what? What are you going to do that for the next fucking 40, 50 years of your life? My parents lived, my mom's still alive, 84. My dad passed at 80. You're going to just cash in your chips at 60 and go lay by a pool in a retirement community? It sounds fucking terrible.
It's insane. It's what it is.
But that's
what
they've
sold. A whole
sold.
bunch of people have been raised.
Yeah,
we call these company men.
Where did that come from?
They're company men.
So people that worked for Xerox and
people
Kodak.
Get a job for a major corporation when they're 23 years old. And they stay in the corporation and they work toward my retirement. Because my retirement is the goal. They want.
Those are those outcome-driven people.
They're outcome-driven people.
Yeah,
That's a perfect analogy for for this deal. The outcome is my retirement. Well, what does that actually mean?
I avoid those people.
You know?
Like if there was dog shit in my backyard, I'm going to try to like walk around it. I'm not even going to step over it. I just avoid it.
Yeah, they're not. It's a terrible waste of human potential.
Yeah.
Is what it is. If you set expectations for yourself that terminate when you've worked 40 years.
Well, we see the same thing
That's
too.
rather arbitrary, don't you think?
Well, but we see the same thing with people with people that diet. Oh, once I lose 20 pounds, or
then I'm where I need to be.
Then I'm something going to be, or like I'm going to die for the next 12 weeks, and I'm going to do this or this, and they look at these in these blocks, and I always go back to a talk that Andy Stump gave me years ago when we had him speak at one of our symposiums, and they asked him how he was successful at Buds. His entire life was focused on seeing the sun come up. As long as he could see the sun come up the next day, he was going to fight to get to the next sunrise.
Next one.
Yeah.
Right.
So they asked him, how did you pass Buds and Hell Week? He's like, sunrises. As soon as he goes, I just had to get to the sunrise. And as soon as the sun went up, he thought, and went down, he knew that he had just to get to the other. And he's like, it was just fighting for sunrises.
Next week on Starting Strength Radio, we are going to join. You guys are going to join.
Am I joining, or who's joining? Are they joining us?
They are going to join us for our conversation.
Oh, I can't wait.
John Wellborn is here, and we will talk to you guys for about an hour and 45 minutes next time about just whatever the fuck drops into our mind.
I hope it's an hour 45 and they don't cut too much of it out.
I think it would. No, some of it has to be cut out. It'll end up being an hour and 43 minutes.
Okay. All right. As long as we're close.
So we'll see you guys next time on Starting Strength Radio.